Welcome to Vultauras. I'm Cleo and will be your guide through the realms of perception. We will be exploring an eclectic sphere of topics in each video segment for the purpose of soul integration. For with more understanding, we each expand and participate in mending the collective consciousness, also known as the eternal return. So today's topics, I'm going to be discussing the 5 stages of grief, and I chose a book called The Legend of Altazar. And the main reason why I chose that is because on the backside is Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, who she gave her endorsement of this book, and she is the one that did all of the research and compilation of what we know today as the 5 stages of grief. But in the meantime, until I, get to the rest of that, if you wouldn't mind clicking on the subscribe, like, share, anything like that, it's not for money. It's just to help generate some more viewers that might enjoy this. So without further ado, I will get to it. I just want to say thank you for your patience, for waiting for me. Just give you a quick little backstory on why it's taking me so long to get some videos out. I strictly have hotspot on my phone. I don't have regular internet like most people do. I live in a small space per choice, and I'm highly mobile. So I use my phone as a hotspot to do all of this. So I do run out of data, and that is why it takes me a while to get back on. I have been in the mix of creating another video, but that one's going to be more of a PowerPoint, and I'm hitting some technical glitches because I'm not that tech savvy. So now without further ado, we're going to go ahead and begin with Dr. Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. I am going to put my glasses back on because I do have my notes. I just thought maybe you'd want to see me without the massive glare that's happening across my glasses. And hopefully in a couple of weeks, I may have new glasses with anti-glare. So, all right. I could see again. I'm really good with farsighted, but not up close. Okay, so for those who don't know about Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, she's a Swiss psychiatrist. She's actually passed, but her work is really well known. Back in 1969, she wrote a book on death and dying. Basically, she observed and put together, sorry if things were wobbling, my cats run across the table and they do that. She observed specifically 5 stages of grief. And a lot of people know them as denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, a lot of people actually consider this like the stages, like A, B, C, D, E, F. No. They are completely, absolutely interchangeable depending on the individual. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up, besides the book, which reminded me, it really does coincide with what's happening now, worldwide, year 2020 at least. I mean, this is valid for any time of year, for any culture, any individual, any circumstance, if you're gonna, go through grief. Right now, globally, it really seems like it's really, really valid. It's not just about a person physically dying or the ones left behind that are, emotionally grieving. It can be about a loss of a way of life, the loss of the reality as you knew it, the loss of a job, the loss of a dream. That's a big one. Loss of relationships. It is about loss. Grief is loss. It is okay to grieve all of those things. So quite often, people, you know, like let's say if it is death, like if somebody has cancer, my mom had cancer, she passed from it. She was in a state of denial for quite some time because she didn't want to have to face the fact of, okay, what do I do regarding my 6-year-old son, right? So she was in a lot of denial. I had to help her through that. Of course, she dealt with a lot of depression. It wasn't until she accepted the possibility that she wasn't going to come through it, that's when we were able to get going with my brother. But it's interchangeable. So let's say, for example, I'm just going to use world circumstances right now with the whole, you know, virus and I guess you could say being locked up, being muzzled. I call it being muzzled. So a lot of people at first, it's complete denial that their reality is changing. They're just going to wait for it all to pass away. This is just my observance, my perspective, granted, and it's not every single person. I'm just going to use like small little populations to give an example. So denial is one. Denial of believing that we're not going to go back to the lives we had before. It's kind of like, okay, this too shall pass. When we get through the hurdle, when we get through the muzzles and everybody's, you know, herd immunity and so on and so forth, okay. Then you have, you know, groups that are really angry in regards to injustices, angry in regards to basically the gaslighting that's going on with a lot of administrative government officials. They give you one story, they retract it, give you another story, then they go back to the original story, then they give you new information, and then they counteract that with another piece. You get different departments that are counteracting with one. It is a complete gaslighting thing. So people are very angry about that, which could also mix in with denial, right? So you can have a population that's very angry, some that are, you know, in denial, some that are both, because of all this gaslighting, because of the lack of transparency in the information. And I know a lot of the reasons for that, but that's not what we're going to talk about. I need to keep myself on track. This is why I have notes, because I can go off on so many tangents. But so yeah, so you can have a combo or singularity of denial and anger. Then you go into the bargaining. So for some people, it's like, okay, I am going to wear the mask for a while, and then I am going to have my shot, and then everything's going to be wonderful. Everything's going to be great, right? So that's their bargaining chip. They're like, fine, I will get my shot and everything will go back to normal for me and I won't have any worries. Don't know that. We don't know that. But they're willing to accept that because that's within it as well. Another bargaining is in regards to, okay, if I behave for a little while, wear the mask, do the social distancing, all that, then all right, hopefully I'll find a way to accept this at some point. But that's also a form of, you know, it can mesh into denial again because you don't have all the information. I really suggest people do a lot of research. It's all out there. It is all out there. You just need to know how to type in the right keywords. I can't tell you how many patents I have, how many agendas I have, and they all link together. You got Agenda 21, 2020, 2030, 2050. They're all there, and a lot of them are driven by the UN. So then, of course, we have depression. Big one, big one. So the depression, this is how I explain it to people because I dealt with chronic depression. No, don't jump down. I dealt with chronic depression a lot ever since I was a teenager. I mean, I was like one of those suicidal thought teenagers, but I broke out of it, took most of my life. Wasn't until I hit 40 that I started addressing it on my own without medication, all of that. Really worked hard at it. It takes a lot of rewiring of the brain to get this done, along with supplements and everything. I didn't go to medications. Working in the field of psychology and everything, I knew too much about it, so I had to skip on that. Basically, depression is anger turned inwards. So instead of expressing your anger and getting it out in a healthy way, not against people, like what you're seeing a lot in the world right now. A lot of people just don't know how to properly regulate their emotions. So that anger is coming out full force, just blasting across. But for others, the anger is turned inwards. It's however they were conditioned, programmed, personality, temperament. So when depression occurs, that's when a spiral can really go about. That's when grief is deeply, deeply felt because you are within that cyclical pattern. It can even occur alongside acceptance. When you can accept that, oh, wow, things are not really going to ever go back the way I remember them all these decades of my life. It's just not going to go back. It will be altered. It will be changed. Don't know what that is yet. It is a little scary because you don't have all the information, correct? So depression and acceptance can also go alongside each other. You can also bounce back and forth between each of these individually. You can also have anger and acceptance, where it's like, okay, you accept it's not going to be the way it was again, but you're pissed. You're pissed off about it because it's like it was stolen from you. You didn't give permission. You didn't, you didn't agree to it. But it's almost like, what can I do? There's a lot people can do. There really is. First thing is don't comply. Just don't comply. But of course, I don't want to get people in trouble. So you use your judgment on that one. But yes, as far as the 5 stages of grief, I believe everybody's going through that in one level or another. I know a lot of the children are regarding school. It genuinely breaks my heart to see so many children in these school settings and how this is shaping their outlook on life, their outlook on the world, their outlook about one another as far as being social or not social. I mean, you can't see much when you're muzzled. You can't see much, right? For some, it's difficult to hear as well. So this is where suicide, a lot of suicides are occurring right now, and it is wrapped in within the 5 stages of grief. It's just not understanding what is being processed, really. It's not being consciously aware of what this grief is that's being processed. So there are several warning signs, but two that are really just relevant to anybody and everybody outside of all the other signs like mental health or, alcohol or drug abuse or self-harming, just any of those. Outside of those, just mainstream, difficult life events and isolation. Those 2 alone fall into so much of what is occurring right now out there in the world. Yeah, when you get isolated, it's real easy to give up. When you move out of the realm of, if you were, okay, let me back up. If you are of a particular temperament and personality type, and depending on what type of resilience you were able to build based off of your experiences in life and how you learned particular coping skills, it really is going to play a factor as to how you're going to maneuver and flow or resist through all of this change that is occurring. And believe me, it's not done. We're not done. Not even close. There's so much occurring. I mean, even with the Great Reset, I mean, they're really going to take advantage of this one. They really are. But with difficult life events, if you don't have the proper coping skills, if you don't have the support system you are allowed to access, which could turn around and isolate you from either family, friends, or, you know, just your support system, or even from mental health facilities, because a lot of this virus stuff has really shut a lot of things down. So that is why more than any other year, we have had the highest suicide rates. So that's another reason why I really wanted to go through the 5 stages, the 5 stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Again, if you see or feel any of these, examine it, talk about it, draw about it, write about it, just express it in a healthy, safe manner, please. Because the 5 stages of grief, it goes above and beyond just physical death. It really does. Again, the dream of a business, right? A business that had to close under these pressures. A dream of a relationship, of what is the dream or the hopes of the relationship and compared to the reality of the relationship. The death of, let's say, travel. Oh gosh, that's one of mine this year. I really wanted to do a lot of traveling. Squash. Anger. Oh, I was pissed I couldn't do a lot of traveling. Now I accept it. Still a little angry. Hopefully we'll move past that. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. I don't know how far or with what limitations. So that's going to be another cycle right there once that's figured out. Another one is the safety. Just feeling safe in your environment. You can go through a lot of grief going, I really love this city, love this region, love this town, love this state. Who knows what it is for you, right? And then when all that changes so drastically, like what happened in Seattle and in Portland, for all the people that were caught up and stuck in those zones of all the, you know, the rioting, a lot of those people went through a lot of grief, and they shared it. I've heard some of the stories. They, you know, it shattered their reality. It shattered their world. So they were going through grief just off of their environment as well. So I just wanted to share this. You know, Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, Swiss psychologist, wonderful woman, did a lot of great, you know, work for humankind, and the 1969 book on death and dying, if you're interested in that. I used to have a copy. I gave it away years ago. I've assisted, you know, family members through their death, and to help them through these stages so that they have a good death, so that they can pass on and feel like they've done all that they can for their family, that they did well. But also for just everybody in your life, school, home, job, business, relationships, reality. 5 stages of grief. So you've got denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. All right. And yeah, look into those. So that's the first topic. I don't want to go on too much for you guys. It's a little depressing, but great growth when you can get through it and also assist another. It gets easier. It's coping skills. So anyways, the reason why this kind of also came up is because quite some time ago, I was talking with a very dear friend for over 20 years now, and she was sharing with me that at that time, this was a year ago, it was a year ago. I was in the car, we're having a conversation, and she was asking me if I knew about Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. And she goes, of course you did. I go, yes, I know who she is. And she was explaining that she was assisting her sister, and they were talking about, the psychiatrist and her stages of death. Well, just hung up the phone, pulled into the parking lot, said, I love you, gotta go. Not even 5 minutes from when we discussed that to when I walked into the used bookstore, I came across the Legend of Altazar. All right. So we have a fragment of the true history of planet Earth. It's written by Solara, and she also put underneath by the Hermit of the Crystal Mountain. Whoops, sorry. So, I'm getting a lot of glare on there. I'm sorry. Okay, so I see this beautiful purple color. I look on the back, and who do we have? Dr. Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. She endorsed, here you go. She endorsed the book. This entire thing, it is her take on it. And I knew right then and there I had to get it. It was $2. I'm like, all right, $2, I'll take it, right? Great condition, beautiful condition, right? This book was published back in 1987 for such a beautiful copy. And just so you know, everybody, I am a book whore. Love my books. I will keep it myself. I should have hashtag book whore. Yeah, there we go. I'll own it. All right. So in regards to this, we started off with Elisabeth Kubler-Ross on Death and Dying, which is a nonfiction book. This is a fictional book. But for anybody who absolutely loves Atlantis and Lemuria, I have to tell you, my mind was like, wow, when I was reading this book. So just to let you know a little bit about Solara, I first want to talk about her really quick. So, and I'm pulling out my notes because I can't remember all these facts when it comes to particular people, okay? So she was better known in the late 1980s, early 1990s. She keeps a very, very low profile. She's not real big, but at the same time, she has traveled worldwide. I mean, when I saw a list of the places she went to, she's highfalutin, I'm telling you. So, she will give, I guess you can say guidance or classes. And then of course, she would talk about her books, but otherwise very low profile. Last I know, she lives in the sacred valley of the Incas in Peru. That's where she resides. She just likes it real low key. A lot of people call her just the secret well of knowledge. And I'll tell you what, I've only read one of her books so far, which is The Legend of Altazar. So just to give you some of the places that are brought up with this book: Lemuria, Atlantis, Rapa Nui, Kingdom of An, Tiwaku. Those are just some, okay? And she really breaks down kind of the locations through these travelings with the portals and all. Some of the characters: Altazar, which means high king. He was the high king of Lemuria. But without knowing it, most people didn't know this, he was secretly trained through the order out of Atlantis so that he could properly guide and lead his country, Lemuria. All right. Then he is partnered with his equal, Deandra, and she was also trained in Atlantis. And they were allowed not to physically meet each other prior to their union, but basically there was some kind of information exchange that they were able to just pick up because of their training, okay? They were equals by every respect, and that was the purpose for the leadership, was equals. You couldn't have one drag the other, all right? You also have Agmora, which he is kind of like the precursor to what was developing with Atlantis and Lemuria regarding the crystal. You have Solana and Solana, he was trained with a temple order in Rapa Nui. I would equate him very similar to like a Tibetan monk. Much later, he meets up with Soluna, which is his actual equal half, which he met much later in the alternate realm of the hermit in the Crystal Mountain. Okay, Crystal Mountain, right? Yes. Okay, had a look. It's been about a year since I read the book. Then you have Mu-Ra, which she was an extraterrestrial that was living in Tiwaku. She was a sorceress by every, I guess you can say, thought pattern, perception here on this realm. She was basically left behind by her kind, which was not good. She misbehaved. They said, no, 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 you can't be doing that stuff. We're taking off. And they left her on Earth. Well, that really pissed her off. She went through grief. She was grieving, and that grieving, she couldn't internalize it anymore. So she was externalizing it into ravaged anger. And people lived in fear. You also have the makers who were on Atlantis. And they were supposed to be like regulators of the realm. They were supposed to be protectors. Well, the makers, a lot of them, they started dabbling. Yes, they started to look at what they could do, and they did a lot of destruction. And then the hermit. The hermit, you could say she was slightly similar to Mu-Ra, but she was much older, far wiser, and you could almost say she was like a watcher. She was a guardian in many respects. And so she would guide those to where they needed to go, all right? Within all of this, it's really covered as far as technology, crystals, teleportation, portals, dark, light, because the energies needed to remain in balance. Both had an equal spot, but they needed to remain in balance and respect one another within that balance. The biggest thing about the book is reincarnation. The reincarnation and the forgetfulness. I like to call it the profound amnesia is what I like to call it, through so many lifetimes, so many generations, and how there's recognition, but not entirely, but maybe entirely, maybe a little smidge, but then all these various ones. And basically it's following the specific reincarnation of Altazar, because when he lost Lemuria and he had to go find his beloved in Atlantis, his grief took him so far and so deep that he lost himself. He forgot who he was. And it was up to his best friend, Solana, to try and guide him through this. But Altazar had such deep attachment to his loss. It was very difficult for him to see past it. Solana didn't have the attachments, he had the mission. And so it was his mission that kept him focused. I don't want to give too much more in regards to this. It is a beautiful, beautiful nonfiction book, but at the same time, you get this little inclination of like, wait a minute. There's so much. I started thinking about Edgar Cayce, and a lot of things that he shared and said. I have no idea if Solara read his books or not, but I can tell you that this is her genuine. I could feel this was like her firsthand account. I really can. And just the way she writes it, it's very easy to read through, very easy, very compelling. The characters are really good, and it's just the whole other dimension, the other world, the past world. But I know a lot of people are going to get a lot of different interpretations, and that's great. That really is, because it's going to ring a certain chord for everybody differently. So I wanted to share that. The Legend of Altazar by Solara. This was in 1987. It's not in reprint. If you're going to find this, you need to find this book at thrift bookstores, used bookstores, online. You know, I would just type it in and everything, because it's, and I got it for such a deal. $2, $2. I'm so proud of me. So, $2. It was meant to be based off of the conversation I had right prior, and then boop, there it was. I'm like, okay, it's the book. Read it. Boom. Okay. Well, she has many other books. I don't have all of them, but I found, I was so impressed, I started looking. So we have A Star is Born by Solara. This one here, yes, I am promoting her books right now. This was 1989, okay? This is by Solara. A Star is Born, A Remembrance of the Awakened Ones, okay? Then you have Invoking Your Celestial Guardian by Solara. This one here, it's much thinner. Sorry, I got cat hair. Wait. 1986. Okay, this one's 1986. Now we have got, oh, here we go. How to Live Large on a Small Planet by Solara. Okay, this one was published. This one was 1996, so that one's much later. Okay, and then we have part 1 of the 1111 trilogy. This is El on Ra. Okay, El on Ra is also mentioned in the very first book, The Legend of Altazar. Okay, and this is The Healing of Orion, again by Solara. This I think is a later publication here. Oh no, it's not. It's newer than the older than the other one. 1991. Okay, and like I said, I'm finding some. Oh my God, I've just been lucky. Great condition. I think I found this one for $5. So if you're interested in some good metaphysical, yet also fictional stories, something to just kind of, you know, get your brain to go just a little, you know, I do recommend them. I do. Solara. And so that kind of ties in together Elisabeth Kubler-Ross with death and dying, and then we have Solara with the reincarnation, and it's all about the grief process. This whole story is about how individuals go through the grief, get stuck in the grief, get past the grief, whether it be, you know, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, or acceptance. And we do it every day in our own lives as well. Okay. So with that, now it's time for the brain tickler bag. I really didn't know what to do at first, to be honest. I almost pulled out one of my Lemurian crystals. They're really pretty. But I'm like, okay, a lot of people know a lot about crystals. I may still bring them up again at another point. I'm sure they wouldn't mind being showcased. I have so many from well over 20 years ago. My crystals are part of the family. They're babies. They all have a purpose. But of course, at the same time, I give a lot of them away. I've been known to just sit down and somebody really liked a ring and they tried it on, looked really good on them. And I was like, keep it. And they thought I was kidding. I go, no, I'm serious. You can keep it. And to this day, I have no regrets. I mean, it was the right thing. Sometimes they just need to move along. So, no, kitty. So I thought, okay, since I went down the metaphysical route a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and share recently in regards to my experience with the planet Jupiter. Now, mind you, I want to let you know up front, I don't study astronomy. I don't. I do follow astrology. Absolutely, I do. But I don't follow astronomy. So after I had this experience, this vision with Jupiter, I looked into Jupiter a little bit, just see what kind of images were out there, what was seen, what was done. It's not exactly like what I saw, what I experienced, but take it however you want. Again, perceptions. I could just have a very, very good imagination. Don't know. I'm not going to share everything that I saw on Jupiter. It's actually in. To be on Jupiter, you're in Jupiter. And I'll show a photo. I put together a very rudimentary image. So let me pull this up for you really quick. All right, so this is my attempt at explaining what I saw, okay? So as you can see inside, I hope you can see my little cursor. This little thing right here, this is the actual planet, okay? This whole area out here, I want to say it's a good 2/3. 2/3 of this is all this gaseous stuff that we're all aware of, okay? All this lavender purple is all the gaseous stuff that we're aware of, that we see through astronomy, okay? Well, what I understood, because I went all the way to here, okay? What I understood is this is the protective barrier from outer space, the universe, the cosmos, however you want to put it. This gaseous layer is much like, when you look over here at the egg, it's a lot like the albumin of an egg. So if you take the white portion of the egg, that's what all this lavender stuff is for the planet of Jupiter, okay? And it's a flat color, but what I saw were a lot of swirls, like a lot of moving gaseous stuff that was going on, okay? Then when you get to where it meets the blue here, okay, which it wasn't necessarily blue, but I had to put something there. It was kind of like a very light sky blue, maybe. This is now this is 1/3 size of the planet of Jupiter, all right? And this, you could say, I don't know, maybe that's kind of like the thicker, you know, albumin, the white, the thicker white right here, maybe, right? This is the thinner white part of the egg. This is the thicker white part of the egg. And then this, the planet portion would be like the yolk right here in the egg, okay? Well, this blue portion here, it's actually what we would equate as humans on Earth to be breathable oxygen. I don't know what it is exactly. I really don't. I just know that that is the living atmosphere. That is what is being protected, okay? And then here is the actual planet, which is 1/4 size of the entire Jupiter, okay? Now, inside this living sphere, inside the larger capsule of Jupiter, is, I guess you could say, it's like a continuous aurora borealis, like what we would see in the North or South Poles here on Earth. I know I found out recently that they are seeing that similarity as well at the North and South Poles of Jupiter, okay? I don't know why I keep looking over there. I need to look over here. Oh my gosh, Lola. Okay, this is what I'm trying to work with here. It's down. Okay, so now everybody is familiar with the red eye of Jupiter, right? So this is what this is right here, with that spiral going straight into that living area, and it's electromagnified all the way around that living area there, okay? What I got This is very similar to the egg's cord, right? The chalaza or the shalaza. I'm not sure. I didn't study the egg in biology class. They had me dissecting things. I didn't like it. But this is what it is like. It is the holding structure right here, just as the egg. It is the holding structure holding all these layers together. The additional portion is the large red eye, okay, is absorbing energy and light from outside in the universe in through this tunnel vortex and distributing it all around the livable space around the planet portion, okay? And that could be why a lot of the aurora borealis light is coming through. Well, the other thing is that inside there, the technology is regulating when it's light to maybe dusk, dawn, or dark. I do believe it is naturally dark. That was my impression. However, they would use the energy gathered from this, whomever's in there, the energy gathered from this to illuminate. They would like turn it on, like gathered energy, and illuminate for periods of time, and then slowly take it back down again. Kind of like a timer, kind of like saving solar power, I guess you could say. But it's not necessarily light coming from the sun as we may know it. It is light coming from the energy, electrons, atoms, whatever. I'm not scientific, from the universe coming in through there. Now, mind you, there are still many other little vortexes all over the perimeter. To my understanding, those were much smaller little threads, kind of like skin tissue. Okay, so you got skin tissue, right? Well, when you look at a cross section of skin tissue, you see all these different little threads, the myofascia threads that are holding each layer together for strength. Well, that's what all these various ones all around the edge that you see. If you go and you look at a picture of Jupiter, you can see all the extra little tiny eyes. It's just everybody talks about the big red eye because it is like it could swallow Earth whole. That's how big it is. It could just swallow Earth whole, right? And all these other ones are much, much smaller, all over the place. Well, they're also used as portals for entering and exiting. Okay, so yes, the brain tickler bag. That is what I offered up to you today. My world, some of the places I go, and this time happened to be Jupiter. Is there more to what I experienced? Absolutely. But I do believe that's probably about as much as I'm comfortable providing at this moment. Again, I am not an astrophysicist, okay? I am, I'm gonna take that down. I'm not an astrophysicist. I don't know a lot about astronomy. I don't even really think about planets that much outside of astrology. So for me to travel there and see that, and it's not the first place I've gone to like that, but the simple fact that I went through the layers and I was seeing how it was constructed and some of what lives there was quite fascinating. And it's also giving you a little insight as to what swims in here. I write a lot of this stuff down. I do a lot of drawings, except this last one was quite rudimentary. So I was trying to find a way to be able to upload it so that you could visually see what I was talking about, because otherwise it was just very difficult for me to explain. So with that, I won't ramble on much more. So today we covered the 5 stages of grief. We covered The Legend of Altazar by the author Solara, and we did a brain tickler bag on Jupiter. If you would like to know or learn or just see what I've got to, say on a perspective regarding any other topic, I would love to hear back from you. In the meantime, please, if you like this, hit like. If you also like it and think somebody else might like it, share. And then please subscribe. I would really appreciate it. I'd like to try and get this built up a little bit more. And also thank you for your patience again, because again, I strictly run off of hotspot. I have very limited internet access. I will be going to coffee shops soon, so I could use some of theirs. However, I am still living almost 2 months now under just clouds of fire smoke. So hanging out outside during these days of change, it's not quite conducive at this moment. So with that, I will say adieu, and Cleo signing off from Vultauras, and have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.